What's good, y'all? We are back for episode 6 of our Philly 10K build, and today we're going to go through the running cycle and also how to develop your running form. Now, the running cycle is pretty much just a pattern of taking repetitive steps to propel yourself forward, just placing one foot in front of the other. In the nervous system, the muscles and the joints all pretty much work together to make sure that this process is efficient, to reduce your risk of injury, and to enhance your overall performance. So before we get into each of the 4 phases, I want to go over one term, and that is ground reaction force, or GRF. And it's pretty much the force that's placed on the ground with each step. And with each step, you're pretty much absorbing energy that'll help with the forward propulsion, or as you're going forward to, increase more power, to increase your speed, and just to keep you going stride after stride. And as we get into the running cycle, we have 4 distinct phases. You have the initial contact, then you have the mid stance, you have the toe off, and then you have the swing phase. Now, when it comes to the initial contact, you're either going to strike with your rear foot or your forefoot. When you're striking with the rear foot, that does put a little bit more pressure onto the knee while reducing pressure on the feet, ankle, and calves. And if you're going more forefoot strike, and that's going to put a little bit more pressure onto the ankle, feet, and calves, and then it'll remove pressure off of the knee. So something just to pay attention to when we get into discovering your correct form portion of the video. I'll kind of discuss just some tweaks and just some different things that you can implement within your own form and your own foot strike, just to make sure it's the one that is best for you. Now, when we go into the next phase, it's going to be the mid stance. This is where GRF, again, that ground reaction force, will be at its highest. So we're absorbing that energy, and then that'll pretty much prepare us for our toe off. So pretty much your hip is extended, your knee is extended, your ankle is plantar flex, and then you're pretty much going to be pushing off of your toes and off to the ball of your feet to go into the swing phase, where you're pretty much off the ground. Both legs are pretty much swinging in opposite direction to go into that next stride. So those are going to be the 4 phases of the running cycle. Again, you got the initial contact, you got the mid stance, you have the toe off, and then you have that swing phase. And when you get into the 2 main phases, pretty much we're going to spend a good amount of time in that mid stance, where your foot is pretty much fully on the ground, and then the swing phase. Now, for the mid stance, this is where a lot of injuries can occur. You think you're hitting and you're making contact with the ground, so you can reduce that through exercise or load variation, or just the volume of training that you're in per week. And then for the swing phase, you're going to spend about 60% of your time running in this phase of the full running cycle. And now that we've discussed each of the 4 phases of the running cycle, I do want to go over at least one exercise for each phase that'll help to just increase your strength, reduce your risk of injury, and enhance your performance throughout your full running cycle. Now, when it comes to the exercises for each of these 4 phases, they're going to kind of overlap a little bit. Maybe not so much the exercise that I have for the swing. However, many of them will overlap, as the full running cycle is a very quick and repetitive process. And so our first phase, again, is going to be the initial contact. So for this one, I think just a simple calf raise will be best. Pretty much just here, just pushing up, just to help to strengthen up the calves, the gastrocnemius. We can go into a bent knee calf raise as well. You can also strengthen up the soleus muscle, but pretty much strengthen up your calves, the Achilles, and that's going to really help to also support the plantar fascia, which are pretty much going to be the first form of contact with the ground as you go into either your rear foot or your forefoot strike. So you're going to want to have those strong supporting muscles to help with the plantar fascia and just absorb that shock when you're out running. Second up, we have the mid stance phase. So for this one, I have a pretty cool exercise. It's called a 1-leg ball squat. Get to that just in a second. And then I'm also going to recommend strengthening up your plantar fascia. I have a guide that you can purchase. It'll be in the description below, or I have a video demonstration that you can purchase. It'll be in the description below. But strengthening up the plantar fascia will be key here, because again, it's your first initial contact with the ground, so you're going to make sure those muscles can really absorb that shock, take on that ground reaction force, and reduce that risk of injury, because plantar fasciitis is not something that you want to experience. So the 1-leg ball squat has definitely become one of my favorite exercises to implement. I got it from the book The Science of Running, as I mentioned in a previous video. Really effective movement for strengthening up the calves, the quads, the hamstring, glutes, the hips, and even your abdominal muscles. It also helps with a lot of stability, but I like this one specifically for the mid stance, is because it's going to help to really stabilize the knee. and just to keep everything nice and strong and in contact once your foot fully is in contact with the ground. So for setup, you're going to want to have the ball start about like hip height, waist height, and you're going to just bring one leg up. It's about 90 degrees from hip to ankle. You're just going to hold this here, that grounded foot. The toes are going to be straight. You're in a straight line from heel to knee to hip, shoulder, staying nice and strong in your core. Tuck your pelvis, squeeze your glute. You're going to go palms across your chest. You're just going to slightly bend the knee. The knee will travel forward. It won't go to the inside, outside, and then you'll press right up through the heel. So again here, nice control, knee travels forward, hold for about a second or two, and you're going to drive up through the heel. Those will be our one leg squats. All right, so our next movement is going to build right off of our single leg ball squat within that mid stance. We're going to go now into the toe off, and our movement is going to be a single leg hop. The setup is going to be a little similar. You can go hand or one foot will be on the ground, one knee is going to be up. You're going to go straight line from ankle to knee to hip. You're going to bend down slightly. It's going to go into a single hop, stick the landing, spin down slightly again, single hop, stick the landing. I'll do that from the side. Pretty simple and easy. It's here. I like to swing back, get the arms involved, come up, stick the landing, come up slightly, come down, stick the landing. Pretty simple single leg hop, but you're really pushing off the balls of your feet, grounding with the heel to also help with stability and really engaging the hamstring glutes. So it's going to build strength within the calves, hamstring glutes, some quads, and the hips as well. So really good movement for working on the toe off phase of the running cycle. Okay, so last up we have our swing phase. And for this phase, I'm going to go into a core exercise called dead bugs. I think this one's going to be key because in the swing phase, we're pretty much off the ground. So we want to make sure we have a nice, strong, and stable core so that when we make contact with the ground again, we're not leaning forward, we're not falling to the side, and we're maintaining great and proper posture throughout the running cycle. So pretty much for the dead bugs, you're going to lay on your back. You're going to want to make sure your lower back is flat against the floor. You're going to lift your shoulder blades off the ground and keep your core engaged. Arms are going to be up. You can also hold a weight here. You can lower it back and hold ice. You can hold it static, or you can lower the weight as you extend your legs. But we're just going to body weight for it today. We're going to take a big exhale, extend out nice and slow. Hold for a second. We'll come back in, and then we'll switch over to the other side. And if you wanted to use a weight, just imagine the plate is in my hand. I'm going to lower it back as I extend my leg, come back in, and then switch over to the other side, nice and slow and simple, making sure you're breathing as you extend out. Big exhale as you extend your legs. But pretty much dead bug, that's going to be a great exercise for the swing phase. Even if you look at the leg position, it does mimic how you're going to be looking when you're running. So great one to implement into your routine. All right, so now that we've gone over what the running cycle is, each phase of the running cycle, some exercises that you can implement for each phase, I want to go into proper form, and I also want to give some feedback from experience on just how I've tweaked my form since I began running. So when it comes to proper form, there's no one single correct way to run. You have to really be aware of your own biomechanics, or just the makeup and structure of your body when it comes to your bones, your ligaments, your joints, your muscles. So all of those are going to play a part, primarily your bone structure, but all of that is going to play a part in how your body is going to move, how you're going to hit the ground, how your legs are going to go, how your core and torso is going to interact with your legs. However, you can be aware of this knowledge to just help you perform better with your running. So as we go into 3 areas when it comes to proper form and posture, you're going to want to make sure you're standing up nice and tall. So you can get up here. You're going to want to ensure you're nice and tall. You're not overly extending or arching your lower back. You're also not crunching forward, looking at your feet. Just imagine a string is pulling your head to the ceiling, core is tight, and you're pretty much just going to be driving. So I'm just kind of going to march in place. But just notice how as I'm bringing my legs forward and my knees up, I'm not crunching forward. I'm also not extending back. So just staying nice and tall and strong within your core. Your arms are going to be very crucial, just helping you stay balanced. And that's just going to help to generate more relaxation as well throughout your running form. And then for your core, you're going to be nice. You're going to want to be nice and strong and stable, because the core helps to transmit power and force from the lower body to the upper body. If you have a weak core, you can waste movement laterally, or you can be out of balance, which can really inhibit your ability to stay strong, to run fast, and it can also impact how your body's going to respond to the force that's generated from making contact with the ground, which could lead to injuries. And then last up, your feet are going to be the shock absorption when you're hitting the ground within each step. And you're going to want to make sure, one, you have strong feet again, and then the placement, if you're going more rear foot or forefoot, can really play a big role. But when it comes to finding or discovering your correct form, you're going to want to experiment, and that's something that I had to do, and something that I had to pay a lot of attention to throughout my journey as a runner. I feel like when I first started, I was going more heel strike. I transitioned to more of a forefoot. I was doing a little bit of bouncing, and I feel like for me personally, I get a little bit more pressure on my ankles, and I get a lot of ankle injuries, as I experienced more so in 2025 when I was running more ankle and then plantar fascia. So I've recently switched earlier this year to more of a heel strike, and that's been giving me much less pressure on my ankles. Sometimes I will feel or notice a little bit more on the knee, but it's nothing that lingers too far gone. I more so will keep my training not too intense, so it's not putting added stress and added pressure onto my joints. I also make sure I prioritize strength training, which also play a big role in just my muscles supporting those joints when I'm running, whether it's my knees or my ankles or my hips. And all of that really plays a role. However, you really have to experiment, develop a lot of body awareness to see, all right, is this the correct form for me? Am I feeling any pain or added pressure in these areas? And also pay attention to how your body feels following your runs. If you're getting a lot of pain that's over a greater level of 3 on a 1 to 10 scale, maybe it's something that you have to pay attention to. You could dial back intensity, you could change up your foot strike, or you can just work on some things in the gym to develop more strength. But all of those things will really play a part. But a lot of times it could be stress and overuse that can lead to those different injuries or breakdowns in biomechanics. So hopefully this information, really drives home for you. It's a very simple and topic to look at. It may be something that's also overlooked. However, by just being aware of proper form, each phase of the running cycle, you can reduce your risk of injury. You can enhance your ability to perform, whether if you're in your training or your races, and you can run with a lot more efficiency, which will lead to overall greater satisfaction within the sport. But just some great information there. That is episode 6 of our Philly 10K build. We got 2 more to go. A nice recap. So the race is getting closer. I'm very much excited for it. And I'm just going to keep on having fun, keep showing the journey. And if you like this content, you took some value, definitely feel free to subscribe, share it to a friend. Be sure to check out my website, Hood Healers Organics. You can subscribe to our free newsletter. And if you would like some support along on your health journey, whether if you're a runner or someone who just likes to strength train or be active, or maybe you're a beginner, feel free to shoot me an email at Suleiman@hoodhealersorganics.com. We'd love to help you on your journey. But that's it for this week's video. Peace and love.